Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Petralia, and I will be your host today. Thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners presentation. Today's talk is on the benefits of upgrading your system from BMC Track-It to FootPrints. Flycast Partners has helped many Track-It customers with services and training on the product. For those companies who have grown and matured beyond the capabilities of Track-It, we've been able to present and implement the next logical choice for IT service management with BMC FootPrints. Our presenter on this topic today will be Gielda. Greg has been with Flycast Partners pretty much since its founding, and it's a big reason why Flycast Partners remains one of the top VARs in North America. Greg has a proven history in leadership, consulting, ITIL implementation, and developmental stewardship on all ITIL best practice disciplines, including change management, problem management, incident management, ITIL configuration, and release management. Greg is well into his second decade into the IT industry with several hundred implementations under his belt. Before we get started, Greg, let me introduce our organization. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. Founded and staffed by personnel that have many years of experience in the IT space, we took the best ideas from these collective experiences and added them to the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in ITSM, ITAM, and WLA spaces using ITIL best practices. Our professional services can easily scale up or down in order to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services on-site and remote, as well as training to reinforce your company's long-term IT success. Our ongoing administration and support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on your normal day-to-day operations, saving our customers time and money. Please visit our new website at www.flycastpartners.com or feel free to call us at 1-844-FLYCAST. This is just one of our weekly webinars. We encourage you to utilize our website for researching industry white papers, training that is available from ITIL to ITSM tools, assistance with professional services, and feel free to utilize the new ITSM Solution Finder. Please type any questions that you have during the presentation, and if we have time at the end, Greg will try to answer some of them for you. If you have any questions and you've not been able to get an answer, then please email us at info@flycastpartners.com, and we will try to get an answer to you within 5 business days. And now, without further ado, Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to share my screen.
And all you have to do is give me sharing, and I will start sharing my screen. Your screen's already shared. Perfect. I am unmuted. I am now the presenter. We are about to get going, everybody. So thanks for joining up and taking time out of your day. We very much appreciate that. We know that you have many things that you could be doing right now, and the fact that you're sitting with me and willing to listen about some of this is fantastic, at least we think. So thank you. I'm about to share my desktop here, and we will get going. Okay, well, you should see a mountain range in the background, which is a good sign that we're off and running. If for some reason we can't see that, we should shout that out to me so that we can get it corrected. But today, we're really here to talk a little bit about folks who are currently using what used to be Numara's Track-It solution, right? And even prior to that, it was Intuit's Track-It solution. So the product has been around for quite some time, Track-It. And Numara Software had really promoted it extensively. BMC, of course, acquired Numara about 3 years back, continues to work with the product. And it is an ideal ITSM solution on Rails. It's probably the best ITSM solution you can get for your money if you don't really want to be able to expand it much and you like everything to be kind of all in one neat package with a bow on it. But the downside of Track-It is that it's in that package with a bow on it, right? So you're kind of in a box. You're in a rather high-walled garden that you can't get out of because Track-It dictates for you what you should do. Every ticket in Track-It looks the same. Almost everybody's Track-It installation is identical to the other because there's not much you can do to really customize Track-It to manage the kinds of processes that you like. So Track-It oftentimes leaves folks with as a dead end. Now, it depends on how long you've had the product, right, and what your growth rate is. We've worked with some customers who have had it for almost 10 years. We've worked with other products who've had it for a year and quickly outgrew the solution because of its inability to really be fully configurable to manage independent workflows or to treat several different ticket types, each as their own type of request. Everything inside of Track-It is the same ticket type. FootPrints, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is oftentimes a solution that organizations will take a peek at. We or BMC will make recommendations to do that because it's a natural progression from Track-It, because you get a nice credit if you're still on your support with Track-It. So if you move to FootPrints, you get a nice credit towards purchasing the solution. And because FootPrints does not leave you in that position of having to wrap your company around what the tool is telling you must do. Track-It sort of makes you bend the company to the will of the tool. FootPrints takes a different approach. It actually bends around your company's needs, right? You can shape it the way you want to. And a big chunk of the reason for that is, although FootPrints and Track-It both take tickets, right? All systems of this type generally take tickets. But what happens to them after that? Where are they allowed to go? What kind of data can you gather? And how easy is it to make the tool gather that information? Those are the kinds of things that start differentiating one product from another. And with Track-It, while everything is baked in, again, as we've mentioned, that also leaves you in a position of not being really able to configure your way out of it. It leaves you exactly as you found it, basically, right at the beginning. So the stuff that I talk about here with FootPrints, guys, the important thing to remember is this is not Track-It, meaning my configuration for the tool doesn't have any bearing on how you might have it configured for your use. Mine's simply an example in a demonstration environment to give you an idea of ways you could potentially use FootPrints, but it isn't representative of ways that you must. Unlike Track-It, if we were demonstrating that, your Track-It environment would probably look pretty much exactly like mine. So keep that in the back of your head as we talk about this, because the way I have it configured is not by any stretch the way you must. FootPrints, like Track-It, takes tickets, allows your technicians to log in, allows your customers to log in. But if you know, neither of these folks are using a client. Track-It represents a client that must be installed on a desktop if you want to access it that way. There is no client for FootPrints. It's always been 100% web-based, and it remains so in version 12, which is what we're talking about. That means it doesn't matter which browser you're using or where you're using it from. Quite agnostic. You can use any browser you want. You can make the whole tool work from your Chromebook if you'd like, or run it from your iPad or your iPhone or your Android tablet, whatever you happen to have. I happen to be running this entire webcast on a virtual machine, as you can see, on my Mac laptop. So it doesn't really care where you're running it. I'm even running it almost like it's a server class machine here on my laptop. So you clearly want to run this in an actual server environment. FootPrints uses two different types of users: customer users, who are free, right, have as many of those as you want. And customer users in FootPrints are like you shopping at Target. Nobody gets assigned to do work when you shop at Target. You're not going to be pulled to the back and told to, unload a truck or something. And FootPrints customers are the same way. They don't get assigned to tickets to do work. However, the technicians, the folks who work in FootPrints language, that's known as an agent, those folks, they're the licensed entity, and those folks can get assigned to records. Right? FootPrints lets you mix and match your license type. You can have named licenses for people, concurrent licenses. You can mix and match those so that the folks working at your help desk or service desk named. That way they always have a parking place that they can park in, always have access to use the tool. But folks who are not necessarily in it every day, but still do work, maybe they spend a third of their time or less in the product, they're a great candidate for a concurrent license. Concurrent license is like any open place in your parking lot. As long as there's a place to park, I'm good. I can get in, park, do my stuff, and leave. So both of those can be mixed and matched any way you'd like to in FootPrints. Have 10 concurrent for your help desk staff, and have 10 named and 3 concurrent licenses. The concurrent licenses can be used. Usually, you do that at a ratio of 3 to 1, typically. So that's roughly 9 different agents that can be using the tool on 3 licenses in practicality. You can, of course, put more people on a single concurrent if you'd like. Now, I'm looking at this from the perspective of a technician. Just one potential way that you could have FootPrints configured. We talked a little bit ago about how you can have it configured for your customers to look at as well. And in this case, the customer is seeing a service catalog with potential choices they could make, kind of like shopping. FootPrints uses a concept that is unique in the industry, though, so that when people are accessing it, what they are really getting after is a workspace. Workspaces are what we often think about in other tools as the modules, right? Except unlike other tools, FootPrints workspaces are free. So you're not buying a separate module to manage a problem. You're not buying a separate module to manage facilities requests. Right? Those kinds of things are all part of workspaces. Workspaces are like, well, they're like factories, really. You can create a factory to build any sort of automation you want. And a workspace works very much the same way, except it automates not the building of widgets, but rather the building of process. So if you have things you pass around in email right now or ticket types that you're taking in Track-It, a FootPrints workspace could, of course, accommodate all of that information. And you can have as many workspaces as you'd like because, as I mentioned, they are free of charge. So there's no cost for building workspaces. Any kind of blank management process you want can be managed in FootPrints. And each process, just like each factory, has its automations tailored to manage the type of request that it's going to be handling. So a factory that produces guitars is going to have automation and equipment that's designed for managing and creating those. A factory that creates automobiles will have all of its equipment and automation. A factory in FootPrints, a workspace, is going to have all the automation, all the notifications, all the fields that you need to manage your incident process or your facilities request process or your human resources process. All of these can live in their own area so that no people who don't get to see or don't need to see human resources requests will be viewing them. Yet you have the ability to allow human resources to work in the same product. So the data that needs to be shared, information from HR about that new hire coming on board, well, those folks can have that information shared readily while still keeping all the HR tickets only viewable by HR staff or facilities requests only viewable by facility staff. And that's a major departure from the way Track-It works, because kind of everybody gets to see everything in Track-It. There's no good way to stop that. Now, from my screen, I'm going to get my little dashboard out of the way. This is fully configurable, guys. Point and click. Use the customize option so that you can point and click your way to changing incidents by status or my level 1 tickets. I can add more information to this if I want to, add different buttons for opening different kinds of requests, depending on whether I have access or not. So FootPrints allows me to quickly set itself up to work my way, right? The smart way. Because when you come into a tool that's forcing you down a certain hole, down a certain way of working, then it takes time. You lose productivity. You're not able to get the information that you need at your fingertips. FootPrints lets you configure that with your mouse. And that goes for all of FootPrints. The stuff that we're going to be talking about today is actually configured with your mouse. There is no coding, there is no scripting. No DBAs are harmed in the making of this product. Now, when we open a request, like an incident, we'll pick on incident management. When we open an incident request, FootPrints is going to pull that record up and supply the details that I need to fill in for an incident ticket, including who the caller might be, right, if I'm a technician working at the help desk, what information about the issue will I gather, what status will I move it to, how will I manage its impact and urgency so that we can understand priority. All of that information is gatherable by you at your discretion, though. And the reason I say that is because, again, Track-It's ticket looks pretty much like Track-It's ticket everywhere in everybody's system. And here, it's quite different. If I go to open a request for change in FootPrints, you'll see that it opens up that factory's ticket, right? Now I'm processing requests in that factory. I'm managing information about the type of change that I'm gathering. I'm still gathering the contact record detail, but I'm also capturing completely different kinds of information about the change request than I would be capturing if I were managing a break-fix request like an incident. Or maybe I want to take it completely the other way and say I want to manage facilities requests because I have a facilities team that needs to manage their tickets. Notice that I can capture the information, now start capturing detail about my facilities requests. Hey, this is a safety concern, right? And it's a facilities request for maintaining conference rooms or doing grounds work. Maybe I need to maintain the equipment, especially now, right? The seasons are changing. People are putting stuff away Maybe they shore up their new or their old mowers by doing some repair work and getting them winterized, part of routine maintenance. I can then track that information about the mower itself and link right to inventory. Say, hey, this John Deere mower, that's the one we're doing the work on. Now I'll have a record of all the work ever done against this John Deere mower. So FootPrints will keep track of those inventory components as well, like Track-It can. And workspaces can be used for purchasing or for legal investigations or for human resource work or any kind of process you want. So the workspace is a concept that is unique to FootPrints, but it allows you to manage any blank management process you have and to make sure that you capture all the right fields, you assign all the right people at the right times, and that only the right people get to see those tickets so that the wrong folks aren't seeing the wrong information, or especially with Track-It, so that everybody isn't wielding a hammer, right? Because Track-It is sort of a hammer. Everything has to look like a nail. FootPrints, you can have subtlety, you can have special tools in each workspace that are designed to manage the process in question. Now, when I fill in information inside of my ticket, of course, you didn't think you'd get away without seeing me type. That's awfully exciting. So when I fill in information here and link to a contact record because the caller has identified themselves, I can pull the information back from my address book, which can be in FootPrints. This can be an Active Directory. It can be an LDAP. It can be a SQL source. It can be inside of Salesforce.com, right? You can use a Salesforce address book. You can even use Microsoft CRM, whatever they're calling it this week, as your source of truth. So many places you can tie FootPrints to get contact information, one of which is going to be suitable for your organization, right? The ability to capture that data of who your caller is and link that information back to the ticket. Now I know information about Greg because he's in the record. He's the one that I've got tied out. He's the caller. And I can also find details about Greg, such as, hey, what are Greg's incidents? How many tickets has he opened? Some of them are critical. These are flagged as red, right? So we have a complete history of everything that's happened with Greg here. And all the information about Greg as a customer is available to me, where he works, all the details about who he is. In this way, I can always keep tabs on not just the tickets, but who's opening them, and whether or not the folks opening those tickets have got a whole lot more open. Maybe they're getting less than happy with us as a result of having all of these calls into the system that we may not be resolving in time. Capture the information that Greg's calling about, right? Move the ticket through its life cycle. I have examples here that show you can move the ticket into life cycles anything you want to, at least right now. However, FootPrints allows you to maintain the correct flow for these life cycles so that you're not moving the ticket directly to closed if it's got to have additional work done. That's kind of like driving right to the dryer at the car wash before you ever get your car washed. So you probably want to stop at different stations along the way to get the work complete. And FootPrints allows you to maintain that. If I look at my change management record, for example, you'll see information here. As I start filling in details about my change request, FootPrints is going to start locking down where the ticket must go. You said this was a normal change. That's going to kick it over to those folks for review. You said this was a technical change. It's now in pending approval status, and I can't move it forward. So FootPrints make sure that whatever ticket type you're opening, changes or facilities requests, incidents or problems, any other type of record, it's only going to live in the life cycle you want it to. Each one with its own life cycle, each request type with its own workflow and its own field. And you can have as many fields on that record as you want to. Capture as much information as is relevant to your process. Unlike Track-It, where they give you like 20 fields that you could customize for yourself, FootPrints lets you create an unlimited number of them. No one will fill in an unlimited number of fields, so you have to keep that in mind. But at least in this way, you can capture the data that's relevant to your process instead of being forced to use the ones that Track-It provides. And remember, with only 20 fields to work with, that means that everybody who's working in Track-It has to share those fields. Again, that makes every ticket look kind of the same, whether it's a facilities request or an HR request. They're all really in the same place. There's no separate workflows for each. So FootPrints lets me maintain that information, lets me capture detail about my caller, lets me capture information about the priority of the request, because let's face it, guys, if you guys travel ever, when you go to the airport, are you the #1 priority? Yes. Yes, you are. Just let them ask you, right? I am TSA pre, I am in first class, In fact, I have all of first class to myself. Just ask me, I'll tell you. So if given a choice, everybody's going to say, well, this is a critical issue. Most important thing ever, because it's me. But the truth is, if we start asking questions about, hey, are you unable to work, or are you working normally? If you're working normally, unless you're a VIP or something, it's probably not a critical request. If you're unable to work, well, that's a different story. And especially if you're unable to work and it's like the whole site or location that can't do that. Now we've got a critical issue. That makes sense. If everything is critical, guys, nothing is critical, right? Kind of like saying if everyone is Superman, no one is Superman. Because who's then left to be a normal person? Nobody. So you can't treat everything like the most critical thing under the sun. Something has to be the most critical while other things fall into place. As the old saying goes, if you don't put first things first, you won't get first things or second things. Because you don't even know what the first one is supposed to be. So, of course, it says notes here are visible to the customer. But the truth of it is, most of the information on this form is not visible to the customer. This field happens to be, because I've chosen to allow my customers to see it. When customers log in, they will be given a form of your choosing to fill in for their incident request. In this case, they are doing exactly the same form, believe it or not, in exactly the same factory, the same exact workspace that my technicians are working in. The difference is, just like a factory tour, the customers aren't seeing all the grungy areas of the factory, they're just seeing the nice clean information. So these are the fields I've chosen to share with my customer. This is the factory tour I've chosen to give them. As you can see, they don't see any of that crazy stuff. They do see this field, right? The description field, just like I did over there. But the rest of those fields are not visible to the customer. So in answer to your question, yes, you absolutely can have field or fields in which you share notes amongst yourselves as technicians, or which you share additional information that the customer is not privy to. Because if you don't put it on the customer's form, it's like creating a PDF document, right, to fill in. If I don't put the field on the PDF, will you know the field is there to fill out? No, right? If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it. So we know that if I don't put the field on this form, the customer can't see it. They can only see the information that I want them to see. In this case, I'm actually secretly getting information about the priority. Hey, this is affecting only me, and how does it affect me? I can't do my job. Well, that tells me the priority of the request, right? I get some information now without them having to tell me, yes, I am #1 priority. If I let them pick priority, I don't know who of you would not pick #1, to be honest. I need help because something isn't working right. Notice I did not give them a category tree. I don't have to give them WebMD to figure out what they have before they come see the doctor. Instead, I just want to say, hey, doc, something isn't working right. I can't print. Sweet. You've told me more information here than if you tried to go through and figure out my category list and diagnose your own disease and diagnose your own issue. Because you may be wrong. At least this way, we can get some base information and ask the right questions as we go. But my customer is not going to be made to fill in most all the information on this form, unlike my technician, who's going to have much information to fill in for categories. And of course, this internal notes field says notes here not visible to the customer. Well, none of this stuff is visible to the customer, right? We just didn't include any of it in them. Now you can see I've returned information about my asset. If you combine FootPrints with what used to be called FootPrints Asset Core, right, a very, very powerful asset solution. So powerful, in fact, that BMC is using it to manage all of their 170 plus locations around the globe with literally tens of thousands of endpoints that they manage. This lets you return information to the record about the customer's platform, what they're working on, and in my case, you can see it's my VM that we're looking at. It also lets us take action directly against that machine from here. Now, if you do your statistical homework, you will note that roughly 80% of the time when someone calls your help desk, it is about their local machine or its configuration. It is not about your infrastructure. If you're the networking team, it's never about the network. Just ask them. Right? Network is always working perfectly. But the truth of it is, we do the 3-finger salute, right? Control-Alt-Delete for our Windows platform machines all the time. We clear the cache, we restart the application, we let the update finish. It's usually something local. So it makes sense that I should have access to the local machine from the ticket that they're probably calling about the local machine. Odds are, if you were a Vegas odds maker, you'd pick that, right? Because 80% of the time you'd be right. This means you can now take action against that endpoint right from here. I don't have to wander over to it if it's across campus or across town, because I can remote control it even if they're in a hotel in Guam, as long as they're on the internet. They do not have to be on my VPN to make that happen. So this far exceeds the capability from an asset perspective that is given to you in Track-It asset solution. Yes, we do deploy agents, but we also deploy software, right? So we have an agent that's deployed on the machine that allows us to interact with it. But through that agent, we can remote control your machine, we can deploy software, we can maintain its integrity so it does not drift from the standards that we put forward. We can normalize our software counts, we can deploy patches. Right? And when we say deploy software, we can deploy anything, not just MSIs. So it really becomes an all-in-one solution that you can leverage if you choose to, as a way to make Track-It capability even more extensible, right? The capability you had to manage inventory and Track-It was somewhat limited. Here, it's quite complete and lets you really take control of those endpoints. Now, any ticket of any type, of course, can be captured in FootPrints, as we're talking about. Any detail you need to capture about whatever the request is, you can capture. If you need new fields to light up because of choices you've made, 1 field, 100 fields, however many fields it must display, FootPrints lets you display all those fields so that because of the choice you made, you can now populate new information, helpful information that lets us get this type of request resolved or provides the right information back to the person doing the services for you. So FootPrints will always be there to gather the info that's relevant to your process and later to be able to find that info as you need it. Now, what I want to talk about briefly, guys, most folks won't show you the behind the scenes of how the sausage is made. But I want to talk about that because that's a big differentiator with FootPrints too. Some of you may be Track-It administrators, you may play around inside of Track-It, but the functions that we have in FootPrints were literally built using my mouse and clicking. No other skills. I am not a coder, I'm not a programmer, I don't know any languages at all, except English. So in the end, I would not be able to script this stuff if I didn't have the ability to point and click through FootPrints to do it. And that means that you can have folks managing and implementing FootPrints that do not have to be techno geeks. They do not have to be technophiles, Java coders. Those folks can go about their day jobs. Roughly 0.25 of an FTE during setup of FootPrints, roughly 0.10 of an FTE when you're operating FootPrints. Means it's very low overhead in terms of administrivia. And that means folks can go about their day jobs and not be spending all their time in the tool. But it also means that you can set FootPrints up to do what you'd like. I built, for me, right, and some folks are like, oh, I want to see what it does out of the box. Remember, no software vendor knows your company's needs. So out of the box is just that software vendor's vision of what you could do, not what you must do. Track-It is the only tool really that we're talking about here, and Track-It does dictate to you what you must do. And we know what happens when that occurs, right? You start looking for different tools because you've outgrown it. So in FootPrints, you can absolutely create things that are template-based, right? Maybe I want to build a help desk and I can capture some predefined fields. I can always add my own or completely disassemble it and start from scratch. Maybe I need to build a human resources workspace, a little factory to manage HR requests and all their process. Or you could do what I did, just build all of these containers at once. My address book and my configuration management database, my knowledge base, which is divisible by both customers and agents, as well as by category of knowledge. So if I don't need to see HR knowledge, they will be the only ones that can see it. My service portfolio, which is my service catalog, it allows myself or my customers to interact with the product. And that is huge because if my customers came in through the service catalog, then they can just drill into the kinds of services we offer and kind of shop for them based on category. What things do I want to order today? Different customers will see different services depending on who they are, or the same services, so that they can drill in and still place orders for things. Hey, I would like to get a new computer. Yes, this is me. I'm going to request a new computer. Here's the write-up about the computer. This can contain as much or as little, as in my case, little, information as you'd like. And then your customer can simply choose to request it, no different than putting it in their cart on Amazon and choosing to save the request. Your customer now didn't have to type a thing, and it can be whooshed off to whoever needs to approve that request. That capability was built by me right out of the box. Right? It didn't have all the cool pictures. I added those. But it did have all of the categories, create whatever I wanted to. Change management, of course, the ability to approve requests, even my service desk, so that I can manage my incidents and problems and other request types. And if I click continue and tell FootPrints to use my existing address book or build a new one, there's as many as you want, clicking create is going to cause FootPrints to build all of those for me in about 6 minutes. So that gives you a place that you can start from, or you can simply choose to create your own workspace, name it, add your own fields, create your own address books, your own CMDBs. Notice that it says create or create and publish here. Publishing means others can see it, like writing a book. Creating means I'm not done writing the book. I'm not publishing yet. So this allows me to decide when it's ready for prime time, when I've got everything good to go. And no one who's using FootPrints is going to have to be logged out or kicked out of the system. You don't have to take it down for hours. In fact, the system doesn't kick anyone out. The changes when you publish them are picked up immediately by the next person using that particular ticket or those particular rules. So unlike other tools where you have to shut it down to make an update, FootPrints lets you do this stuff while you're still in the product, minimizing downtime, maximizing usability. When you maintain and manage your workspaces, you can see in my system I have many of these workspaces in place, right? You can build workspaces for anything to do any kind of management of any process you could think of. These cost nothing. Build as many as you want. All of them will have their own ticket with their own info, their own rule sets, their own assignees, making sure that you can manage any blank management process you have. And these are really folders, sort of like your picture folder is on your desktop. I expect pictures underneath my photos folder. In my corporate services workspace, I would expect services that we offer at a corporate level to virtually all of our customers. Incidents and problem resolution, service requests, fulfillment, facilities requests, etc. Each workspace you can build right from here as well. So you can build it inside this folder and create that hierarchy, just like you can do by adding pictures to your pictures folder. You could put music in your pictures folder if you wanted to on your PC, but it would sort of break your nice synergy that you had going. So in FootPrints, you can certainly mix and match the workspace types under one folder, but it's ideal if the types that go together are the types that need to share information. Facilities may have to request services from IT when they're done wiring up a closet, for example, so that we can finish that work. So the workspaces inside of a container in FootPrints usually mean they're going to be talking together. And when I drill into any workspace, we'll pick on incident. That's usually what we have with our help desk systems. When I pick on incidents, you will see that I can create my own fields, right? Easily done. Add as many fields as I want. You can see I've already got 57 custom fields in there. This would be the 58th one. Name it what you'd like. Decide what kind of field you want to build. Anything from images and integers to real numbers and drop downs, multi-select fields, rich text fields, checkboxes, Boolean, date time fields linked to a calendar. All of that stuff is at your fingertips. No DBA is required or harmed to make this happen. And once you've created the fields that you want to create, well, FootPrints lets you add those to your workspace. That way you can just drag them out onto the form and allow folks to use them, whether that's your customer that needs to see it or whether it's your agent, the technician that needs to see it. If I drill into the technician form, you'll see this is the exact incident record that I was working on right here. Here's all the field data. I just have this one filled out because I'm using it for real. I have this one in edit mode, basically, so that I can make modifications to it. That means any fields I've built are eligible for me to be dragging out and placing on the page anywhere I want, even creating my own new sections if I want to, so that if I need new information to be captured somewhere, create the section, place it where I want, take whatever fields I want to, put the information out on that section, anywhere that I would like, make it a little wider if that's what I want to do, and start laying out the information on my form the way I would like it to be laid out. This common information field, maybe we'll put that there. Now I can start populating the information in my new section of the form, and these fields, of course, can have their values changed or be edited from here, so if they need to be mandatory, it's easy to make them mandatory. I can simply choose to edit that given field right from in here, and say, you know what, this is not an optional field, it's required. Now you've got to fill it in, no choice. So FootPrints lets me decide which data I gather, unlike Track-It where it's deciding for you. FootPrints lets me decide whether that information is appropriate to add to the workspace or not. Lets me decide which rules I want to add or which ones I do not. And all of that is done with my mouse using that point-and-click interface. So my customer version of that form is going to contain only the info that we saw my customer filling out. No fields I don't wish them to see, even though all the fields are available, even the ones that I was dragging out there on my agent form. So I could put them here if I wanted, but I don't have to let them see that stuff. I can keep it as simple as I want for them. I can also automate any process I want to by using my rule sets. In this case, business rules allow me to automate the process of notifying people or automatically assigning tickets to people, one or more of them, or setting the priority of the request, for example, or notifying somebody if the ticket gets old. And these business rules can do anything from evoking service level management to copying tickets or escalating them to someone, changing the default assignment, even just a generic after save rule that can do anything once I've saved the ticket. Building rules in FootPrints, easy peasy. All you have to do is name your rule, describe your rule, decide when it's allowed to run. Just like factories, each workspace in FootPrints can have its own work hours. That means facilities work hours might be different than your IT staff's 24/7 support, and therefore they wouldn't want their rules running at dark 100 in facilities. Why do I need a rule to run at 2 a.m. when there's no one around to do facilities work at 2 a.m.? So depending on the nature of the work being processed, each factory has its own workspace calendars that it can manage. And then you can decide what events will trigger the rule to run, right? After save, maybe, on an update, if I've updated a ticket, or maybe I just want to check every few minutes. Now, notice we can add additional capabilities here. Say, hey, if it's this or this, if it's on update or every 15 minutes, and if the ticket is getting old, we'll just pick on old here as an example. Maybe I said, look, tickets that are 4 days old are probably too old. They should have been closed before. Tickets that are closed no longer age. Just like when we're closed, we no longer age. And then decide on the actions you want to take. This is it for programming FootPrints. There is no script. There's no language that anyone has to learn. Just basically, if ticket contains this stuff, then I want certain things to happen. And this becomes a beautiful way to make the process work like you want it to. Because now you can say, wouldn't it be great if we could just send a notification every time the ticket reaches this state? Well, yes. Yes, you can. You can do any of that and more in FootPrints. You can even execute external actions. FootPrints does not care what action it's executing. It doesn't have to be in a particular language. Any script, any batch file, anything that can be started wherever it is, FootPrints can start as easily as you could start it. Except FootPrints can pass variables out of the ticket directly to that command line so that it can then execute those capabilities in addition to that script, passing information out of the FootPrints record so that you can set up a new user in Active Directory, for example. So rules in FootPrints, very easy to set up, as is workflow. FootPrints lets me manage workflows so that different kinds of requests can move through different life cycles. And as we manage those kinds of requests, right, you can see I have different workflow processes here for technical changes, normal changes, etc. Well, I opened up a change request over here. You can see I have different kinds of changes, standard, normal, emergency. When I pick one of these, it's going to tell FootPrints in this case, this is the workflow I want you to use. Now you can use any fields you want to for this purpose. In change management, we happen to be using this. Any combinations of fields can determine which workflow is going to be utilized. But that way, if I said it's a technical change, it starts at pending approval, and it either becomes approved or rejected. If it's approved, then I'm going to invoke a business rule R. R was yesterday. Yesterday was Talk Like a Pirate Day. But I'm going to invoke a business rule here that says notify the hardware team that this is approved. If it's rejected, I'm going to evoke a business rule that says, hey, requester, we're sorry, but you didn't get your change approved. And now it's allowed to be implemented, as you can see, based on my workflow. So workflow in FootPrints is really the picture. And the picture is telling FootPrints what the ticket's allowed to do. what path will it take along those tracks? If I'm managing my emergency workflow, for example, you can see I don't have any approvals here yet. I'm going to actually make this an approval process. Now I can add an approval state anywhere I'd like, assigned out, implemented can be an approval state, any of them. We're going to make an approval state at a request. So when it comes in as a request for change, and it's an emergency, I'm going to make people sign off here. That means I don't want it to be assigned out until it's approved. So I'm going to remove that. Now we've broken the chain. I can't assign the ticket until it gets somewhere, and we're going to make this an approval state. FootPrints will add approved and rejected as outcomes. I'll click yes, approved. If it's approved, then I want it to be assigned out. Awesome. If it's not approved, then that must mean it's rejected. And if it's rejected, I want it to be closed. And I'm going to evoke a business rule as it goes to assigned out, and that business rule will notify someone that it's been approved. Same can happen here when it's actually rejected. Right? We'll just add a business rule and notify them and say, no, you didn't make it. Meanwhile, who gets to approve and what happens when they do? I can add any number of approvers that I want to. These can be system administrators, customers, managers, you name it. They can be teams of people. You can even pick based on the content of the record. So you could have a field on your form that contains who the approver is, or that points to who the approver must be based on its values. Even fallback voters can be chosen so that if somebody's out of the office, we have a way to have them stand in. So FootPrints workflow, combined with the ability to allow FootPrints to create any form data you want by dragging and dropping that info out there. FootPrints business rules so that tickets never get old and all the work that needs to be done on them can be performed because you can keep track of who's got the ball and what happens if they don't move that ball forward. FootPrints allows you to manage any blank process. And again, unlike Track-It, where it's dictating to you what you must do, which is what you outgrow very quickly, right? Because suddenly your business needs to grow on its own. FootPrints allows you to grow that direction. Now, the final piece that I'll discuss here, guys, is the ability, of course, to find your stuff. It's always important when you're gathering data about your processes to get the data back out. Track-It, because of its limitations in what you can put in, is naturally limited in what you can get out. I can't take information out of Track-It that I never added to it. Right? I'll never be able to report on that. So it becomes very frustrating because I can't even capture the data at the front end to get it out on the back end of Track-It. Every workspace in FootPrints can capture any info that I care about, any detail that I need to help provide that service or tell me how well I did at providing that service, which means I can search for anything from anywhere. Right? I'm in the administrative area, but maybe I'm suspicious we're having a lot of email issues today, so I'd like to search for incidents relating to email. Notice that every single workspace, all those factories I talked about are here. My change management stuff, my workspaces for incident and problem, all here. I'm going to search incidents for email and see if I have any. This comes back with all the tickets that are talking about email. Some of them are critical. You can see they were actually turned red because critical tickets, I have a rule that says turn them red so that I can quickly see them. So FootPrints lets me do simple searching like that. I can join these things with logical operators, put quotes around them if I look for those exact words. Kind of like searching Google, really. You're just finding a keyword mentioned in the article in question. In this case, I'm looking for a keyword mentioned in the workspace. Or I can do an advanced search that allows me to combine all kinds of values, allows me to combine multiple workspaces instead of just searching one at a time. I can search more than one now for different values, and you can see they're still all available for me to search. So if I wanted to search my incident workspace and I wanted to search my problem workspace for terms, then I can decide what to search for here, whether or not that information is common between the two workspaces, or whether that information is actually specific to incident management, like this incident hotfix required field, or maybe specific to problem management, like the problem date activated field. Everything is searchable, all of it in conjunction with each other, so that I can find anything that I want to. And this searching, more robust than the other, allows me to save the search later so that I can include it as a query. That's huge. Right? Now, FootPrints is already viewable on the web. You do not need a mobile app to make FootPrints work. BMC is not in a hurry to make a mobile app. However, they do allow the ability, once that mobile app comes out, once they do announce it, to push data to it. It's not a client. It's not intended as that. It's intended more as a way of looking in at specific canned data that may be in FootPrints. Because remember, you can run this whole thing from any mobile device you have. So this allows FootPrints to capture information that is relevant, right? Any detail that is absolutely relevant for you. And that means this information can be pushed out to the mobile app if it's needed. Preview results. If I had searched for something, all of the tickets that matched would be here, just like the search I did earlier for email. Only when I save this, because I said it should be a query, it makes it available for me to use as a part of my reporting engine. Now, unlike Track-It, FootPrints does not have run times for Crystal Reports embedded in it. Right? Crystal Reports uses or has embedded within Track-It some of its runtime so that it can pull data out of the database. FootPrints uses its own reporting engine to do that. The database is not proprietary. It's just a standard SQL database. They publish a data dictionary, so you can still use your favorite analytics tools to pull information out of the FootPrints database and report on it if you want to. But the engine that is in FootPrints allows me to construct reports of any type. Metrics reports, if that's what I need, right? Basic out-of-the-box reports, if you want to think of them that way, where you guys decide which statuses you're interested in, and it tells you how long it took you to go from status A to status B in any of those workspaces, for example. Or service portfolio reports, if you need to see how you're doing on your service level agreements, or custom reporting. Even dashboards can be produced here. Whatever kind of report you build, FootPrints will keep track of every one of them you've written. You can see I have 7 activity reports and a couple of State 1 versus State 2 reports. I don't have any service portfolio reports, but I did build some custom reports, right, 15 of those. Any reports you construct, when you click the list, will show up, and you will then be able to access those reports in the report builder. So you'll be able to see the information that that report offers you. And the report builder gives you the ability, by checking a box, to add any report you want to a dashboard pool. Now, when you're building a dashboard, just like building anything in real life, you have a set of tools that you use to construct it. This is the dashboard builder, and it looks in its tool set and says, which reports did you tell me you wanted me to have access to for use as dashboard components? So really, any report you build will be added to the toolkit for the dashboard builder, and then this add button simply allows you to construct dashboards containing one or more of these components. These are simply reports you've run earlier, and check the box that said, yes, add this to a dashboard. So FootPrints lets you build a dashboard for display on a big screen TV somewhere for your executives to look at so that they can quickly see from the images shown how your process is working and whether or not it's peak and healthy or have some issues. And to add them to the dashboard, you simply check the dashboard checkbox, and it will turn that report output into a dashboard component. You can also add any report you wish directly into FootPrints itself. That means any home screen can display information about any report that you want to. So if you want to have a report on your address book that shows which departments call you the most frequently, you can display that information, your frequent flyer board if you want to. Any report you like can be included on any home screen in FootPrints. In my case, I've titled my report. It's a custom report. I'm looking at incident records, and I'm using the active tickets this month that is reporting information out of that workspace. So that's a search that I wrote earlier, right? You can use any search you want to, any search you've ever created and saved that you said use this as a query, FootPrints will have access to. That lets you build reports quickly by searching through the data in a way that has already been defined for you, by you. When you see the fields that you would like to include, just put a check mark in the box that represents, yeah, I want incident number on my report. Yes, I would like the short description. Yes, I'd like the status. You can include every field you've captured, right? So you're not limited to searching for or reporting on only the ones that come in the product. Every field you build is just as searchable as any other. FootPrints lets you construct and pull data back about anything that you want. And that means all the data that matters for your process can be displayed as columns in your reports or not at your discretion. When you run the report or see the report data, it's now showing me all the tickets that match that criteria. And if I choose, I can output this as an Excel file, a real Excel file, and then I can open it up in Excel. Or I can output it as a PDF document and open it up as a PDF. Or I can send it as a PDF or an Excel file by automatically running it and delivering it to whoever cares first thing Monday morning, every Monday morning at 6 a.m. while I sit home and sip coffee, because I don't have to be there to send the report. FootPrints will send it automatically to the correct people in the right format. So that way, when I construct reports, they don't just sit here in the machine. They're actually delivered to the people who care when they care. And just so you guys know, you can annoy your friends by sending the reports every hour, every day, if you want. I don't think they'll be your friends anymore if you do that. FootPrints also lets you analyze your data here. This is why people oftentimes export to Excel, right, because they want to do data analysis. But I can do pivot tables in FootPrints, right? So I can create them as part of a cross-tab reporting function. I can create charts that simply don't exist in Excel, like the gauge chart, not in the list of charts you can build. Or I can aggregate the data the way I want to by creating distinct counts and only a list of the distinct unique events that have happened. Or maybe I want to group my data or filter my data based on filter information in field columns, or add my own formula to these columns and do math with them. FootPrints allows me to do data analysis that you would typically have to export in another product, especially if you're using Track-It. It doesn't do a phenomenal job of reporting. But FootPrints allows me to report on whatever data I capture, put it out in any output format, right? Any of the popular ones like PDF or Excel files, so that I can manipulate further or just send it directly to folks. And whether that's charts or graphs, I can make sure that that information is added to my dashboard builder, for example, so that I can construct this component in a bigger overall report, a dashboard that shows me everything that's happening in my environment or in my organization. So with the workspace concept, the ability to construct really any blank management process you'd like, FootPrints really lets you replace the functionality that Track-It has and allows you to grow into it instead of outgrowing it. Folks, with that, I'm going to turn this back over. We'll see if there's any question that I might be able to answer for you. But if not, I'm going to wish you all a great rest of your week, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me Act Edge.